It feels like the world's attention is being pulled in a million different directions right now. But while we're all distracted, a few key events are converging, and they're pushing us toward a major global flashpoint. We are on a 10-day countdown that could end one of two ways: a historic peace deal or a brand new catastrophic conflict. So let's break down what is actually going on.
Right at the heart of all this tension is this really fascinating contradiction. You've got this high-stakes peace summit happening, but at the very same time, the world is shifting its military posture aggressively towards war. To really get what's happening, we've got to look at the facts on the ground.
Okay, so right now, as officials are talking peace, a massive U.S. naval force, I'm talking 2 full aircraft carrier groups, is parked just off the coast of Iran. Let's be clear, this is not a diplomatic handshake. It's a raw projection of overwhelming military power.
And at the exact same moment, thousands of miles away, another crisis is getting worse. Ukraine is being hit with a brutal new wave of attacks on its energy infrastructure. We're seeing cities all across the country plunged into emergency blackouts. The lights are, quite literally, going out.
Now, all of this, it adds up. And it's being reflected in one really alarming number: the World Uncertainty Index. And this thing tracks global economic and political instability. It has just skyrocketed to its highest level in 30 years. That's higher than the 2008 financial crash, and yeah, even higher than the peak of the 2020 pandemic. The data is basically screaming at us that we are in completely uncharted territory.
All right, let's zoom in on that first major flashpoint to see how this is all building: the Middle East. This is where the language of peace is clashing head-on with actions that suggest, well, anything but.
So, officially, the story we're being told is all about diplomacy. Over in Washington, D.C., the Trump administration has put together what they're calling the Board of Peace. And the stated goal here is to hammer out some kind of lasting agreement for Gaza and the entire region, Iran included. But you really have to listen to the language being used in these talks. This quote from President Trump, it doesn't really sound like an invitation, does it? It sounds more like an ultimatum. That phrase, "otherwise bad things will happen," is just hanging over these negotiations, and it's backed up by that naval armada we just saw.
And this right here really gets to the core of the problem. On one hand, you have all this hopeful talk, Board of Peace, meaningful deal. But on the other hand, you have the cold, hard reality of a military buildup and, as we're about to see, some really controversial political moves happening on the ground.
Yeah, the situation on the ground is getting even more complicated. While these peace talks are going on, Israel has just designated huge new areas of the West Bank as state land. This move was immediately met with a swift, joint condemnation from 8 different regional powers. And the fact that key players like Turkey and Saudi Arabia are on that list is a really big deal. It shows a united front against actions they clearly see as an escalation, not a step towards peace.
And if you want to know what Israel's long-term vision is, well, they're being pretty clear about it. Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar says their plan for Gaza isn't just about a ceasefire. It's about the total disarmament of Hamas and what they call the de-radicalization of the society. This tells you their goal is a fundamental change, not just a temporary pause in the fighting.
But, while all eyes are glued to the Middle East, that other crisis we mentioned isn't just waiting around. In fact, it's entering a really dangerous new phase, maybe because global attention has shifted.
Here's the playbook for how it's unfolding. Step 1. Russia has systematically ramped up its attacks, going after critical energy hubs. Step 2. They're using a massive wave of advanced cruise and Zircon missiles to hit major cities. And Step 3. The direct result? Rolling emergency blackouts all across the country. This isn't just a fight on the front lines anymore, it's a war on Ukraine's very ability to function.
And this is the critical danger here. As all the diplomatic and military drama plays out in the Middle East, this war is escalating in the shadows. The fight for survival in Ukraine is getting more desperate, even as it slips from the headlines.
So how do we connect these two crises? They seem so separate. The key is to zoom out. There's a global metric that kind of acts like a thermometer for chaos, and right now it's telling us the world is running a really high fever.
This chart, wow, it puts our current moment into a really shocking perspective. The level of uncertainty today doesn't just squeak past previous crises, it absolutely dwarfs the 2008 financial collapse. It even surpasses the chaos of the global pandemic. By this metric, the instability we're dealing with is literally off the charts.
So what's causing all this instability? Well, a big part of it is a massive split in global priorities. The West is more and more focused on geoeconomic confrontation and winning the race for AI dominance. But meanwhile, the global South is really suspicious of foreign mandates, especially missions that talk about disarming. And through it all, you have economic analysts warning that a major market correction is long overdue. Everybody's looking at the same world but seeing completely different threats, which just fuels the chaos.
I mean, this quote from the EU's executive vice president just perfectly captures that Western focus. In the middle of all these geopolitical fires, a top priority is turning Europe into an AI continent. The focus is on tech, on competition, on the future economy.
But then, contrast that with this plea from the UN Secretary General. It's a completely different worldview, an urgent call to get our priorities straight, to shift resources away from destruction and back towards basic human development and peace. These two quotes, side by side, show just how divided the world's priorities really are.
Okay, so this brings us to the final, critical point. These escalating conflicts, these diverging priorities, they aren't just happening in slow motion. They are all speeding towards an incredibly tight and high-stakes deadline.
That's right, President Trump has publicly put a clock on the entire situation. He's claiming that a meaningful deal with Iran will happen within 10 days. That sets up an unbelievably high-stakes countdown. Either we're about to see a historic diplomatic breakthrough, or we're about to face those bad things he warned about.
So, that leaves us with the ultimate question. As we watch this countdown tick away, what are we really looking at? Is this Board of Peace a genuine last-ditch effort for a breakthrough? Or is it just a billboard, a nice-looking cover for a conflict that's already been decided? The next few days are going to tell us everything.